one thing I will always credit podcasts with is like, in my opinion, it's two main benefits if you just take out the revenue for it. The first is brand awareness. So like I'm borrowing your audience, you're borrowing my audience. So like we'll post this on my stuff, people will find you. So that's like a really great way to grow. And even just your brand, no matter what you sell or do in the future, I think that's like incredible. And the second thing is like association bias, in the sense if you're sitting next to like a NBA athlete or something like that, then it's like, wow, Travis is cool enough, smart enough, good enough to be sitting next to this person. So whether people even consciously or subconsciously realize it, you're elevating your brand in a lot of these people's eyes. So I think it has a lot of legs to it for those reasons, even if you just take out the monetary aspect.
That secondary thing is something that is basically the reason that I continued podcasting from the very beginning, because at the very beginning, I launched the show and I did everything my coaches, told me to do. And the podcast landscape had changed drastically from the time that they had started their shows in like 2012, 2013, like early on, until when I started my show in 2017, which is still pretty early on, but a lot of things were different. And there were hundreds of thousands of shows there at the time. And so I did everything I was supposed to do. And from what they told me, like if you launch and you hit the top charts, like when we did that, we received a windfall of traffic from search, from people like actively looking for podcasts. So I hit the top charts and was in like several different categories, and I was like, boom, I did it. I made it. You know what I mean? And then I looked at my numbers and nothing changed.
Wow.
And it was like, oh, fuck. Like, what do I do now? You know what I mean? Like, I was gearing up for this big thing. I invested all this time, energy, money. Like, what do I do from here? But that was what kept me doing it, is that I was at this event in LA, and it was one of the first ever like business events that I went to. And it was like, I think 2017, it was a Think and Grow Rich premiere,
nice.
Like the documentary, the film that they did on Think and Grow Rich. And so at the premiere, they had a bunch of the people that were featured in the documentary that were there hanging out or whatever. And one of those guys was Lewis Howes. And I just remember like watching the like celebrity-esque feel that Lewis had at that time, which now is even,
greater,
a multiple of what it was in 2017. But I remember watching that play out in real time and just being just amazed by it, because the people who were enthralled with Lewis, I would know who those people were and knew like how much money that they made, that what their net worth was, and all these other factors about them that in my mind would be like a higher level of quote unquote success. I'm not throwing Lewis under the bus at all.
Course, yeah.
I'm just saying that like it was the first time where I just saw it play out in real time, where it was like, this guy's not an actual celebrity himself. All he does is like have conversations with these people, but everybody there wanted to connect with him.
Yeah.
Like he drew the connections. Like he was attracting all of the connections that he could want in his life. And I've seen that play out now in my own life, where it's like, I get into some of these rooms that I'm in and I'm like, I don't deserve to be here. Like, there's no reason I should be here. Like, I'm the brokest dude here. Like, I'm the poorest dude here, But yeah, there's some sort of like, people assign credibility to you when you borrow it from other people, which is why the endorsement industry is a,
so huge,
multi-deca billion-dollar industry. Like Nike alone drops billions on endorsement deals with athletes, because they understand that one thing, that if they can buy trust with their audience, it's worth spending the money on that trust. You know what I mean? Just to be associated with Tiger Woods, hitting that chip in the Masters, and the ball just like hung on the edge of the cup before it fell into the hole, and like that Nike swoosh symbol is there, and it's like imprinted on everybody's minds in golf history forever. You know what I mean? But Nike was never in golf before. They never did golf. Like, they were in all these other sports. And then they broke into the golf industry through an endorsement deal with Tiger Woods, because he was their guy. Like, he was the guy who brought Nike into golf, and now they're one of the biggest golf brands in the world. But they understand buying trust, man.
And I think you can do it on both ends, right? Like, if people are listening to this and they don't want to start a podcast, I feel like do what I do now, like I said, and I selfishly just get on other people's podcasts, right? So it's like, so if you're very well known, like, even I don't have to interview all these well-known people, I can go with you. And now, once again, I know we're getting a little bit into psychology, but because you've also interviewed all these well-known people, now you're interviewing me, it raises my perceived status as well to your audience. There's also like this transfer of trust factor where they trust you, you're a trustworthy person. They would think that you would think that I was a trustworthy person. So now these people think that I'm a trustworthy person. So like,
Yeah.
I think it's, like I said earlier, I'm a huge fan of leverage, and I'm always just looking at like, how can essentially I work the least amount as possible and get the most out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, we're very, right now in my company, we're very bullish on creating essentially like a media company out
Yeah.
of like what I do. And the nice thing is I have the sales on the back end to kind of fuel the investment into growing the media stuff. But I think that podcasts are a huge element of it. Masterminds as well as being seen in another room. But the more I study human psychology, the more I see, like, if you just wanted to, I guess, boil it down, collaborations being like a massive way to grow any business or brand.